Fran Tarkenton wasn't just a quarterback, he was a football revolutionary. In an era when QBs were told to stay safely in the pocket, Tarkenton ran, scrambled, and broke every rule in the book. One infamous game against the Chicago Bears in 1961 changed everything. He got hit, bloodied, and left on the turf, but instead of giving up, something inside him flipped. He realized the game wasn't about following tradition, it was about winning. But Tarkenton's fearless style didn't sit well with everyone. His coach at the time, Norm Van Brocklin, a legendary passer who had zero coaching experience, saw Tarkenton's mobility as a threat to the right way to play quarterback. Tensions boiled over, culminating in Tarkenton being benched and then traded. Most players might have folded under that pressure, but not him. Tarkenton doubled down, running when everyone else stayed in the pocket, passing with precision when others expected chaos, and slowly proving that the rules of the game could be rewritten. You might be asking, if Tarkenton was so revolutionary, why isn't his name on everyone's lips today? How could a quarterback who outran running backs, led his teams to dramatic comebacks, and eventually broke Johnny Unitas' touchdown record fade into the background of NFL history? The answer isn't simple. It's a story of defiance, grit, and battles both on the field and off it, against coaches, critics, and tradition itself. By the end of this story, you'll see how Tarkenton didn't just play football, he changed it forever. You'll witness the highs, the heartbreaks, and the moments that made him one of the most misunderstood yet brilliant QBs of all time. So buckle up, because we're going back to 1961, to the game that would ignite a career, challenge an entire league, and eventually cement Fran Tarkenton as a true pioneer of the NFL. Frank Tarkenton's journey to NFL greatness didn't start with glory. It started with chaos. In 1961, as a young quarterback in the league, Tarkenton stepped onto the field for the Minnesota Vikings, a team that had just been established as an expansion franchise. Wins were scarce and expectations were low, but Tarkenton had fire in his eyes. Unlike most quarterbacks of his era who were taught to stay in the pocket, Tarkenton moved differently. He ran, he scrambled, and he challenged the rigid rules of professional football. It was during a game against the Chicago Bears that Tarkenton's style first clashed with reality. The Bears had a defense that struck fear into every player. Doug Atkins and his teammates mauled Tarkenton relentlessly. He was bloodied, battered, but he didn't quit. Instead, he realized something crucial. To win, he couldn't play like everyone else. He had to play his way. I thought to use my ability to maneuver, to run, to gain yards. Whatever I had to do, I thought that's what I was supposed to do, Tarkenton would later say. But not everyone appreciated this revolutionary approach. Norm Van Brocklin, Tarkenton's coach and a legendary quarterback himself, had a very clear vision. A quarterback's job was to pass from the pocket, safely and predictably. Tarkenton's mobile style infuriated Van Brocklin. Tensions escalated, and eventually Tarkenton was benched. He wasn't just challenging defensive lines, he was challenging authority itself. Have you ever challenged the system or a rule that everyone else blindly followed? How far would you go to prove your way is the right way? Despite the benching and growing criticism, Tarkenton didn't shrink. He doubled down, running, scrambling, and taking risks that many coaches thought were reckless. It wasn't about the fines for the sake of it, it was about winning. Tarkenton's philosophy was simple. A quarterback's job is to move the team, make first downs, and score points, no matter what it takes. His determination began to show flashes of brilliance, even as critics questioned his methods. Tarkenton was breaking records unofficially in every game, outrunning running backs and turning seemingly hopeless situations into first downs. But with every daring move, he also faced scrutiny. Newspapers and fans debated whether his approach was genius or disaster waiting to happen. His style made him both a rising star and a lightning rod. When someone does something differently and succeeds, do you admire them or doubt them? Why do you think Tarkenton was doubted despite his talent? By the end of his early years, Tarkenton had made a bold statement. He wasn't just another quarterback, he was a pioneer willing to challenge the traditions of the NFL, no matter the cost. His story was only beginning, and the conflicts with coaches and critics would shape the fearless, record-breaking career that lay ahead. After being traded from Minnesota, many doubted Fran Tarkenton's ability to succeed in a traditional NFL system. Critics called him reckless, unpredictable, and even a liability, but Tarkenton didn't see it that way. To him, the trade to the New York Giants wasn't a punishment, it was a fresh opportunity to prove that his unorthodox style could not only work, but dominate. The Giants were struggling, having gone 1-1 the previous season. Their fans were skeptical, but Tarkenton didn't let that weigh him down. From the first game, he showcased exactly why he had been a trailblazer in Minnesota. Leaving the pocket wasn't a mistake, it was strategy. He scrambled, extended plays, and put his team in positions to succeed. Week by week, he turned doubt into performance. By the end of his first season with the Giants, Tarkenton had recorded a career-high 29 touchdowns, a testament to both his athleticism and football IQ. Have you ever walked into a new team or project where everyone doubted you? How would you respond to prove yourself? Critics tried to question his approach, saying that a quarterback who ran too much couldn't lead a team consistently. But Tarkenton's record told a different story. In 1969, he led more game-winning drives than any other quarterback in the league. He wasn't reckless, he was calculating. Every scramble, every dash out of the pocket was intentional. Tarkenton had transformed what others saw as chaos into a method for success. Yet, even with these impressive stats, challenges remained. The NFC East was dominated by the Dallas Cowboys, whose power and consistency prevented the Giants from making postseason appearances. Many questioned whether Tarkenton's style could ever translate into true championship success, but Tarkenton's mindset never wavered. For him, it wasn't about critics or critics' expectations, it was about winning every possible play, every first down, every game. Do you think breaking the rules and taking risks is worth it if success isn't guaranteed? How does Tarkenton's mindset compare to yours in high-pressure situations? By embracing his unique style, Tarkenton began to change the conversation around quarterback play. He demonstrated that mobility, intelligence, and risk-taking could coexist. His success wasn't just in numbers, it was in influence. Young players began to see that quarterbacks didn't have to be static. They could improvise, adapt, and dominate at the same time. Tarkenton's Giants era wasn't just a personal validation, it was a blueprint for the modern NFL quarterback. If someone showed you a completely new way to approach something you've always done the traditional way, would you try it or stick to what's comfortable? By the end of his time with the Giants, Tarkenton had proven something undeniable. He could defy critics, challenge conventions, and make his own path to success. But while he had conquered doubt, the ultimate prize, the Super Bowl, still eluded him. In 1972, Fran Tarkenton returned to the Minnesota Vikings, but this time the circumstances were completely different. Norm Van Brocklin, the coach who had once clashed with him, was no longer in charge, and the Vikings had tasted success without him, reaching the Super Bowl in '69. Expectations were high, but Tarkenton's return was met with skepticism. Could his scrambler style really lead a team to championship glory? The first season back didn't go smoothly. The Vikings, once division leaders, slipped to a third-place finish. Critics mocked the decision to bring Tarkenton back, claiming that his chaotic style could never translate into Super Bowl success. But Tarkenton remained undeterred. For him, football was all about adaptability and winning, not following tradition or appeasing critics. Have you ever returned to a situation where people doubted you? How would you prove them wrong? In 1973, Tarkenton began to silence the skeptics. Week 1 against the Raiders set the tone. Despite being tackled repeatedly, he orchestrated a brilliant comeback, proving his clutch ability and mental toughness. He wasn't just a scrambler, he was a quarterback who could read defenses, control the clock, and execute plays with precision. His stats reflected this newfound efficiency. Only 7 interceptions in the regular season and a league-leading quarterback rating by the season's end. Tarkenton was no longer chaotic, he was controlled chaos. Yet, challenges remained. The NFC Championship pitted Tarkenton and the Vikings against the mighty Dallas Cowboys, the team that had dominated the NFC East for years. Even though Tarkenton had elevated his play, the Vikings fell short. Then came the Super Bowl matchup against the Miami Dolphins, winners of the previous year's championship. Tarkenton's Vikings were simply outmatched. For the second consecutive season, the ultimate prize slipped away, leaving Tarkenton's greatness unfulfilled on the biggest stage. Have you ever worked so hard only to come up short? How do you bounce back when success seems just out of reach? Despite the setbacks, Tarkenton's resolve only grew stronger. Each playoff loss became a lesson, each defeat a motivation to refine his game. By 1974, Tarkenton's focus was singular, mastering efficiency while keeping his unique style alive. He passed for 2,598 yards, finishing among the league's top three, and led his team with surgical precision during critical playoff moments. Tarkenton proved that a quarterback could combine mobility, intelligence, and efficiency, a revolutionary idea that would influence the NFL for decades to come. When failure follows you despite giving your all, do you give up or double down? Could Tarkenton's approach work in your own challenges? He had become a model of resilience, innovation, and leadership. But while his personal performance had reached new heights, the Super Bowl still eluded him, a prize he had chased for years and one that would define the next stage of his career. By 1975, Fran Tarkenton was entering the peak of his career. At 35, most quarterbacks would start slowing down, but Tarkenton's hunger for the Super Bowl was fiercer than ever. His years of scrambles, clashes with coaches, and playoff disappointments had built a quarterback capable of controlling games with both skill and audacity. The Vikings, led by Tarkenton, were poised for a historic run. The season began with a statement. Tarkenton guided the team to 10 straight wins, displaying a combination of agility and strategic brilliance few had ever seen. His scrambles weren't reckless, they were calculated, turning broken plays into scoring drives. Opponents struggled to keep up with a quarterback who could pass accurately from the pocket or dash for crucial first downs when defenses weren't ready. Tarkenton wasn't just playing, he was rewriting the playbook. Have you ever faced a challenge that seemed to grow bigger with every step, yet your determination only intensified? How far would you go to reach your ultimate goal? During this streak, the Vikings outscored their opponents by an astounding 862 points. Tarkenton's leadership and daring style elevated the entire team, showing that a quarterback who thought differently could dominate both statistically and strategically. Yet, despite all this success, Tarkenton's ultimate dream, the Super Bowl, remained just out of reach. In the playoffs, the Vikings faced the legendary Pittsburgh Steelers and their infamous steel curtain defense. Tarkenton's brilliance shone, but the opposition proved too strong. For the second year in a row, the Vikings fell short, and Tarkenton once again tasted the bitter frustration of coming close but not claiming the ultimate prize. When you've come so close to success and fallen short, do you let frustration hold you back, or do you push harder? How does Tarkenton's resilience inspire you? But Tarkenton's story wasn't about giving up, it was about evolution. Even after heartbreak, he kept refining his game, balancing the instinctive scrambling with precise, disciplined passing. His vision of quarterbacking, dynamic, adaptable, fearless, was now fully realized, and the league began to take notice. Tarkenton wasn't just chasing victories, he was laying the foundation for what it meant to be a modern, multi-dimensional quarterback. By the end of the 1975 season, Tarkenton's individual achievements were nothing short of historic. He was on the verge of breaking the long-standing touchdown record held by Johnny Unitas, a record that had seemed untouchable for years. Tarkenton's determination, coupled with his innovative approach, had brought him to the edge of immortality in NFL history. But one final push was needed to cement his legacy. What's one goal in your life that seems almost impossible, yet you know it's within reach if you give it everything? Are you ready to go all in like Tarkenton did? Fran Tarkenton's journey in 1975 was a story of mastery, resilience, and relentless pursuit of greatness. He had faced doubt, disappointment, and seemingly unsurmountable defenses, but he refused to let any obstacle define him. The stage was set for a historic finale, where Tarkenton would not only rewrite records, but also redefine what it meant to be a quarterback. Fran Tarkenton retired having done what few quarterbacks had ever done. He broke records, earned an MVP, and revolutionized the way the game was played. Yet, despite his achievements, many today barely remember his name. How could a quarterback who outran defenders, led clutch comebacks, and transformed the NFL fade into the background? The answer lies not in his talent, but in timing, perception, and the nature of sports history. Tarkenton played in an era dominated by teams like the Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins. Despite his brilliance, he faced defenses and dynasties that often overshadowed individual excellence. Super Bowl victories eluded him, and in sports, championships are what the public remembers most. But Tarkenton's influence goes far beyond rings. He showed that quarterbacks didn't have to be static. They could scramble, improvise, and make dynamic plays while remaining efficient. Have you ever felt overlooked despite giving your best? How would you want people to remember your contributions? His style paved the way for modern mobile quarterbacks, players who combine passing, running, and creativity. Today's NFL stars owe a debt to Tarkenton's fearlessness. He demonstrated that innovation could coexist with discipline, that breaking the rules could be the path to success, and that vision and courage were just as important as raw talent. His records and MVP awards cemented his skill, but his true legacy is in how he changed expectations for every quarterback who followed. Yet, Tarkenton was also a complex figure. His unorthodox approach clashed with authority, and his conflicts with coaches and the media sometimes clouded public perception. He wasn't always celebrated during his career, and as time passed, newer generations focused on Super Bowl champions. Tarkenton became a forgotten legend, a pioneer whose brilliance was sometimes invisible to casual fans. Do you think true innovators are always recognized in their time, or do some only get credit later? How does that apply to your own field? In reflecting on Tarkenton's career, it's clear that his impact was immeasurable. He retired holding virtually every significant quarterback record of his era, doing so with a style all his own. He changed the way the game was played, challenged every preconceived notion of quarterbacking, and inspired players who came long after him. Tarkenton proved that success isn't always about fitting the mold, it's about redefining it. What does it mean to leave a legacy? Is it about fame, awards, or the ways you've inspired others? Fran Tarkenton may not have hoisted the Super Bowl trophy, but he achieved something arguably greater. He transformed the NFL forever. His name may not always be remembered first, but his influence lives on every time a quarterback scrambles, improvises, or challenges the norm. Tarkenton's story is a reminder that greatness isn't always measured by popularity or accolades, but by courage, innovation, and the willingness to play your own game, even when the world doubts you.